Hello everyone, welcome to our eighth stream. We have successfully done eight streams, so cheers to that, guys. We have completed 1 week, and today we are going to have a talk about language and intelligence. And to talk about that topic, we have with us Alexander Naumenko, and today on the panel we have Yash Rana, Magadil Amor, Avinav Singh with us, and also there is awesome guy here in the stream. You all can see. Okay,
Yeah.
and now there are like Sanjay is going to join us in some time. He is having some technical difficulties, so we'll figure that out in the meantime. So, not without delaying anything, I will pass the mic to Alexander. Over to you, Alexander.
Thank you. Okay, so I will first introduce myself. I have like 10 years of experience in software development, and also I have some experience of working in AI startups. Uh, I have some machine learning certificates, but despite all of that, I still was feeling that I am the least likely candidate to contribute to the field, not to mention contribute significantly. But uh, on uh, on February 24th of 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and it was a horrible experience for my country, and I needed something to distract myself from the stressful news, and I decided to engage in AI research. uh, so you should understand that I was a one-man team, and I only could manage some limited domain. So I needed to select one of two broad areas like NLP, which stands for natural language processing, and the CV, which stands for computer vision. And I I wasn't comfortable with any of those, but I finally decided that I probably will go with the NLP, with natural languages. And I think it was a very lucky choice on my part. And you will see later why I think so. So and now I will just mention in shortly how my research routine looked like, because I heavily relied on meditations. So I used as the basic tool the Silva method, and it had two major benefits for me. First, it helped me to relax and calm down, and it was important at the time. And also, it boosted my creative thinking, and it was very important, and it helped me a lot. So now, before I switch to describing my theory of intelligence and language, I will first mention a few examples that, in my opinion, are not working. So these are widely respected theories, which, in my opinion, are really misconceptions. So the first one is the uh, theory from Jerry Fodor, who suggested that concepts should be considered atomically. So, like each concept is unrelated to any other. And to explain why I think this is wrong, consider like several pairs of concepts. For instance, apples versus peaches, apples versus cats, apples versus spoons, apples versus galaxies, and apples versus democracy. So I hope you see that even though those concepts are different from each other, but in each pair we have different degrees of this unrelatedness. So, and uh, the very existence of those degrees suggests that something is wrong with the whole idea of atomic concepts. And now I want to like mention the prototype theory, another failing theory in my opinion. So the idea of that theory is that when we try to categorize some unknown object, we compare it to a prototype of a considered category. For instance, when we have a robin at hand and we want to categorize it, we compare it to the class of birds, like a prototypical bird. And it this suggestion sounds reasonable at first, but if you consider it like in depth, you will see why that theory is flawed at the very foundation of it. So I have a few questions to illustrate that. So first, uh, we need to make sure that if we try to categorize a robin, right? Or let's return to apples. So why should we compare apple to the prototype of the apple category in the first place? Why should we ignore peaches, spoons, cats, galaxies, democracy, right? So it turns out that if we try to compare apples to each possible concept out there known to us, we will fail miserably in real time to achieve any uh, like decent performance. It will take too long for us to finish this process. And we know how quickly it is for us and how easy it is to categorize any object. So, and also, uh, another question, which properties should we use? Because each apple, each bird, each galaxy, they have lots of properties. And if we try to compare all of them, then we will see that some properties are similar. If you consider different birds, they have many differences from each other. And we will definitely have like reasons to believe that a robin is not so a bird. So what properties to use for categorization? And also another question, which object should be used as a prototype for each category? Should it be a robin or a sparrow or like straws, right? So uh, we have lots of problems with that theory, really, and it makes that theory infeasible for real-time applications. And if you remember that we want to enable full safe driving cars, for instance, then we need theories of object recognition which are suitable for real-time applications. So now we will start considering what I consider a proper theory of intelligence. And we will start with this concept of object classification, object recognition, and I want to attract your attention to the simple observation that we have lots of objects in the real world that each of them is unique because everyone is unique. You remember this quote about a man and the river, that no man can enter the same river because it's not the same river and it's not the same man anymore. So everything is unique, and even the same object in different points of time is unique and different. And we need to respect another aspect of that because for some purposes we consider some objects to be interchangeable, like apples in a store are interchangeable for us as a buyer. So uh, so the the essence of object classification is what we consider the same and what objects are considered different, right? So we need some system of comparisons. So how do we compare objects? And it turns out that we do it one property at a time. And it is very important because uh, and basically it was the starting insight that I had about intelligence and about language when I tried to minimize the number of moving parts in language. So first, I thought that we have like three major types of content words in any language. So those are nouns, which stand for objects, verbs, which stand for actions, and adjectives, which stand for properties of objects. And my insight was that objects have properties. Pay attention. Objects have properties, and actions change properties. Therefore, we only need to pay attention to properties, and we will be fine in terms of comparing objects to each other and so on. And at the time when I started with that insight, I was considering properties to be measurable. And I think it was a mistake on my part. And someone on Twitter suggested that all properties are comparable, but not all of them are measurable. And since then, I switched to comparable properties, and it really finalized the foundations of the theory. So uh, you have to understand that comparison is really the basic computation that happens in our heads. When we recognize objects, we do not compute, we do not calculate in the general sense. We just compare. So comparison is one specific type of calculation, computation, right? But if we consider our mind as a computer, then we need to ask uh, what type of computation does it run on? And I claim in my theory that brain uses comparisons, and it's a fundamental property. It's easy to implement, and it really what happens under the hood of all the cognitive functions. And you can easily think about it in your own time, and you will see that really we may express anything cognitive, any cognitive function that we perform in terms of comparisons and comparable properties. And now let's consider how we may recognize objects using comparable properties. And in that respect, I would like to attract your attention to the game 20 questions. I think that this is the most important game for any cognitive scientist.
Mm.
And it's I am not the first one from the cognitive science camp who paid attention to that game. If you know Charles Sanders Peirce, famous philosopher, American one, he investigated that game deeply. But in my opinion, he failed to realize the complete potential of that game
Mm.
and
Yeah.
what that game teaches us. And also, one of the pioneers of computer study of artificial intelligence, of research in that area, Alan Newell. He
Mm.
even had a paper titled that you cannot play 20 questions with nature and win. What I claim is that I do, and I win in that game. Because if you consider that game in just 20 simple comparisons, you can recognize up to 1 million uh, concepts, 20 comparisons, and 1 million concepts. Now compare that to neural networks. They need to have deep neural nets with lots of layers, and they only differentiate dogs and cats. Just two concepts.
Mm.
It is really laughable, and not to mention that they need lots of examples to train. And when we consider this application of the game 20 questions, we we see that it has huge promise to the machine learning and artificial intelligence community. And it's
Mm.
uh, really it's the best game out there to start with if you are interested in cognitive science. And
Mm.
now I want to pay attention to three very important lessons that we can take from that game. First one is what defining properties are. So, for instance, if we ask one simple question, is it tangible? So, if you consider, for instance, uh, if you try to figure out the concept democracy, it is intangible, right? So, in one simple question, we divide the whole like set of possible concepts into two different buckets, and we easily can call them tangible and intangible concepts. That's simple. And you already see that we used just one comparison and we divided uh, like 1 million concept into two buckets. And we now have only half of them to consider, roughly half. So it made our comparison easier because we do not need all those 500,000 concepts to compare our Robin Bird, right? And we only used one property, which is it tangible or intangible? Next, we may try, for instance, another property. Is it a living thing? For instance, and it works only for tangible objects, right? Tangible concepts. So if it is not living, so it is uh, immediately we have concepts animate versus inanimate. And then we go, if it is living, then we have like the following layer of classification. Is it an animal or is it a plant? And we go deeper down that tree. And with each level of that tree, we use a different property. And all those properties that we go down with, we really go with some range of that property, which is quite wide in order to accommodate all those concepts that fit that concept. So all the animals fit the concept animal, and the range of possibilities is quite wide. But it's not a problem because we know that this binary search, which the game relies on, it eliminates the possibilities pretty quickly, especially in the case when we start with a finite number of options. And it is important to know that in any case, we should enable that we start with the finite number of options, because it is important. We cannot eliminate infinitive numbers in this way. But uh, going with that game, you see that we pretty quickly eliminate all the undesired options, unfitting ones. And the third lesson is that everything is recognized in comparison. That's actually this phrase is like a proverb in Russian. but I really want to make it like a part of my theory, because it's that important to like ingrain if you are a cognitive scientist and you want to understand it. And now we are coming to a very important philosophical question, which is differences versus similarities. When cognitive scientists try to come up with a classification schema, they take all the cats and they
Mm-hmm.
try to figure out what is similar, common for all those cats. And this is what I consider wrong approach to classification. Because really, what happens if you remember the game 20 questions? For instance, when we come down to some level, for instance, and we get to the level of fruits, right? And then we consider some fruits available to us, and we introduce differences that differentiate, for instance, apples from peaches, then it is important for us not what makes apples similar. For us, it is important what differentiates apples from all other fruits. So it's not about similarities,
Mm-hmm.
it is about differences.
Yeah. So before we move on to another points, let's take some
Yeah,
opinions, questions, and other discussions from the speakers, because it's been a lot, to digest in one go. So
definitely,
yeah, let's keep the
definitely.
conversation going. We have more speakers, so let's hear from them. What are their thoughts? Any questions they have, and something they want to put on. So over to you, Harsh.
Actually, I was having a game of 20 last day. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's been like 17 hours I played that game, and I got that idea. Like I have another group there. I was playing this game, and yeah, we got that idea from a show, the Eight Show,
Mm-hmm.
and trust me, it's a
Excuse me.
very
Like, I have a question. Can you tell me about the 20 questions game? I don't know about that game.
okay. I will explain.
Okay.
So it's basically you have to guess. Like the host have given you to guess something, and now you
Mm-hmm.
can only ask 20 questions to the
Like
host.
secret object.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
you ask questions which can be answered yes or no. And finally, in 20 questions, you have to guess which object was like
Okay,
in the
I
black
got it.
box.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is like if I ask you, like if you think of a secret object, and if I ask you, like it's a like you can ask me a question like, Is it activity
Yeah.
which
It's a
happens
male
between
or
two people?"
female? Is it
Yeah.
animal? Is it
Yes.
amphibian or carnivore or what? So
Yeah,
yeah, from there you can do the filter out the segmentation and go down the funnel to figure out what is it. Yeah,
Mhm.
interesting game. Okay.
but you have to understand one important strategy to this game. You need to start at the highest level and try those properties that eliminate roughly half of the
Yeah,
options. Because
just like
if you start with the question, is it an apple? You are definitely going to fail.
yes, it should be like starting from the bigger circle and just carving out the whole circle
Yeah.
through that one
Narrowing
point.
like
Yes.
down.
So
Like a binary search.
e-
Like PUBG.
exactly. And what is important,
Like, PUBG Warfare game, the zone.
what is
Zone.
important about this game, and please pay attention to this. It's not just a binary search period. It's a semantic binary search, because at each level, your next question will depend on all the previous ones. For
Hmm.
instance, if you go down the path of tangible objects, then you can, for instance, ask, is it small or big, right? But if it is intangible, the size doesn't matter really. So uh, each question determines the semantics of the remaining objects, of the remaining possible concepts, and you take that into account. So it's it's like a semantic binary search. It's
Hmm.
important to remember.
Okay.
And
We also have one more thing in our title, like, talking about the AGI potential, I remember, and also like why LLM is not capable into forming an AGI. Let's shift the conversation around so that we can also cover those
Yeah, but
parts.
let
yeah, we
Sanjay
will
and Amol.
later come to the analysis of natural languages, and probably
Mhm.
this question will be better answered
Okay.
at that stage, right?
Hmm. So
Do
Sanjay,
you
do you
agree?
have a question? Yeah, here's a question.
Yeah. So when you were like speaking about the cementing search, so I just want like a bit of clarification on that. When like I usually work with optimization techniques. So in that, what we do is we first search the big areas, then we find out what are the local optimal areas, then we search in that local optimal areas to find our best possible values. So is it something related to that? Should I consider, or it is a lot of different?
It is different, because what you mentioned with respect to local minima, etc. It's related to the old, well, not old, to the current machine learning
Okay.
paradigms, right?
Okay.
Function optimization and so on.
Mhm.
But uh, here I want to, if you are into mathematics, right? So
Yeah.
you should, probably the closest uh, like analogy of this game is the concept of KD3s. Do you know
Okay.
KD3s?
No.
So the idea is that you have like a multi-dimensional space,
Okay.
and you start chopping it into chunks,
Okay.
and at each after each chop, you have like small cubes,
Hmm.
and you go into that cube, which is like fitting one. So you introduce this hyperplane, and you compare on which side of the plane your object is, and then you go into a fitting bucket. So and at each stage of this chopping process, you like get into smaller and smaller like sub pockets, but
Okay.
uh, it it has this limitation of being only numerical, like you have XYZ coordinates, and that's it. But in case of semantic search, you
Hmm.
have huge differences, because you have to understand that height is pretty different from weight,
Okay.
right? And from
Yes.
color. So, and they have totally different impact on the result. And we will shortly discuss what how we come up with those ranges. I-
Mhm.
It's
Okay.
it's it's an interesting topic in itself.
Mhm.
So I propose to go on, and now I would like to like pay attention to
I think
like,
Harsh have something to say.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Also sometimes our brain doesn't understand the whole subject on itself. But if we speaks like simple words, our words are like if you define something, maybe the other person will not understand it. But if you but in couple of words, it can be explained in better than a definition.
Yes.
How about we give it a term like knowledge distillation?
Probably it's not that.
Mhm.
It's a specification really. So
Mhm.
like you introduce new details about the concept and about the category, and you gain this richer semantics about fitting objects.
Mhm.
So uh, it is like uh, you consider this analogy. So you have a like a block of stone,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and you ask a sculptor to chisel out a beautiful statue for you,
Mhm.
and with each hour of work, uh,
Mhm.
you, the result of his work will be clearer to you,
Mhm.
and
Hmm.
it will be easier for you to guess what he has in mind,
Mhm.
True.
what's the
Yeah.
what the end result will look like. But so like it's a clarification really.
Or
So
more
so
like
in a
increase.
way it's a distillation, but it is
Actually,
like
when you said
discover
nothing,
it's a
so
discovery process, right?
Or
So
we could probably like call it more like increasing like level or degree of specificity.
yes, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I want to like immediately propose to you the solution to the generalization problem,
Mhm.
which is all about AGI, and the central problem of AGI is the letter G, which stands
Mhm.
for general, and it is about generalization. So
Hmm.
what we do when we go down in the process of the 20 questions game, we
Hmm.
introduce differences,
Mhm.
like it is tangible, it is animate, it has feathers, and so on. It can fly, and so on. But
Mhm.
Hmm.
if we forget some differences at some level, for instance, uh,
Mhm.
we forget that it has feathers. What do we generalize to?
Mhm.
To animals. We don't know that it's a bird at this moment, but
Mhm.
we know that it is an animal, because
Mhm.
animal with feathers, it's a bird. But if we ignore the
Mhm.
difference
Yeah,
which
then it's big.
differentiate birds from any other animals,
Yeah.
Then, and it is actually, there is a quote from, uh, I believe it's Borges, who said that uh, to generalize is to forget differences. Simple as that. So, forgetting differences. So, for instance, consider uh, colored chairs. So, you have green chairs, blue chairs, red chairs. Forget color, and you will generalize to chair of any possible color.
Hmm.
Forget material, wooden, plastic, metallic chairs. You generalize to chair. So you get the idea, right? So for instance, you have green or black tea. Forget the difference, and you get to just tea. That's it.
Just a tea.
So so generalization
Yeah.
is just the reverse process of the 20 questions game. Very, very simple. Not, nothing complicated about that. So that is why one more additional argument in favor of my claim that this is the most important game for cognitive science and for small children to develop their cognitive abilities. Okay, so uh, now let's proceed. So I want at this moment to like to pay your attention at the importance of starting assumptions, because it is very natural to assume the importance of objects and actions, right? Because all we see around us is objects, and if we pay attention to any dynamics, we are talking about actions. And this assumption is natural, and it is misleading. It really deceives us on the way to understanding how intelligence works. If you switch your focus to the comparable properties, you will immediately understand intelligence better. And by the way, if we return to nouns, which we previously mentioned stand for objects, you will now see whatever noun you take, that that noun encodes only a subset of properties that define some fitting objects. For instance, if we are talking about birds, then the word bird is just an animal with feathers. It doesn't mention flying at this stage, even. It doesn't mention color, size, favorite food, whatever.
Hmm.
There are still many properties to investigate, and it makes noun only a stack of defining properties. That's it.
Okay.
Well,
It's
So,
not yet
there's some.
complete encoding of the object properties.
Hmm. Someone, not someone, sorry, yeah, in the last live stream we had Sony. So
Yeah.
he commented actually right now, so that we can make it a little more simpler for him. One idea I have, if we can, the comment for simple for him so that he can understand the concept. Just it can be done with a story or short summarization. So I'm leaving on to you guys how you are going to do that. So yeah.
Uh, uh, can you please explain this question? Because
Like,
Yeah,
I will put that thing on the screen. So the Alpha
yeah,
Buddha, Sonny Savage, has commented, can you make a little more simple for me?
uh, what exactly to simplify? Because uh, my mantra, uh, just for you to understand, that I
Mhm,
always try to follow the advice from Einstein, who said that
mhm,
we need to make everything as simple as possible, but
mhm,
not simpler than that. So
mhm.
there is some limit to simplification. For
Yes.
instance,
yes.
we should not forget the semantics of properties,
Mhm,
because if we replace height and weight with just
mhm,
numbers lose the semantics.
mhm,
Mm. Okay.
And it is important to always remember the semantics.
Okay.
mhm.
So at this point of
Um,
time, again, I would love to,
Okay.
have the
can I
conversation.
actually share something here? I actually have
Yeah.
shared
Sure.
this in many spaces. So when, like, like you have a theory to how to, like, create neural networks. I had also read a theory which actually stuck with me, and I applied it somehow practically. But
Mhm.
I was reading Sanskrit, and it's a language, and I will not go in depth, but I will share in general that if you just dissect one single word of that language, just one single word. So in Sanskrit there are three parts of that word: upsarag, dhatu, and pratyaya. So upsarag means prefix. You can see it as like prefix, root, and suffix, and it is audio.
Mhm,
Now, suffix is the context of the entire word. Root is the mapping, but prefix is the meaning modifier. So if I change the prefix, the entire meaning of that context changes, and because of this prefix, that language have infinite number of tables. Okay, but those tables just have two categories, all of them. One of, you can speak it as a like noun and actions, name related words and action related words.
mhm,
So instead of just diversifying upon expanding upon noun in that language, they are also expanding upon actions. And when I read about it, okay, actions. So I was
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
even actions can be like a key to, like, key to AGI. Like if we can diversify upon that. So I studied that how they are classifying it in depth, but that was my basic, when from where I
mhm.
started.
Well, probably we will need a different session about those specifics of Sanskrit, uh, because I'm not familiar with it, and it will probably take too long here to clarify all the details.
No,
So, and probably when we discuss language, uh, some things will be
Mm.
like more clear. So,
Okay. So we have
and
by
another
the way,
question.
yeah, I see
Yeah.
the question. Would you say that learning is based on pattern recognition, and the more flexibility that an entity has to recognize patterns and extrapolate meaning from those patterns, would that be intelligence? That's exactly what intelligence does. But here I have a problem with terminology, because you know that at this stage we have a lot of claims LLMs can think, reason, deduce, and they have knowledge, they have agency, and so on, without any specification of what those words stand for. like what is reasoning, what is pattern recognition. And what my theory does in that respect is I introduce very specific fundamental blocks, comparable properties. Like, for instance, consider temperature. We have basic ranges, like when water is crystal, when it is fluid, and when it is vapor, right? But when we talk about different domain, for instance, about hospital, we really need much narrower ranges, right? When a patient is healthy or not, and when it is already too cold, probably. So, and when we talk about some superconductance in physics, we are talking about yet another set of different ranges, which are about ultra low temperatures. So uh, it the distribution of those ranges and differences between them, it depends on the specific purpose, on the action. And because of that, we need to remember this semantics of property and the semantics of actions. And now we can really go uh, like switch to another discussion about actions. And I would like to start with the God, religion. So typical religious approach to causality is when we ask a question, why does uh, some action X lead to some result Y, like letter Y? And the simple answer to that question given by religious people is that it is so by God's will. But when we ask, and why sometimes does X lead to Z? And it's because God's will is incomprehensible. Simple as that. And it's easy. It's very easy explanation, but it is really unacceptable, at least for me. We as humans, we are searching for reliable recipes, and we want to know what we need to do in order to achieve some result. And even then, it is not exactly so. But anyway, we need to know like some steps which will at least move the needle in the right direction. Because, for instance, if you consider a tennis match, like between Federer and Nadal, it is not clear who will win. And it is clear to each of us that both players know what to do. And it doesn't guarantee that any of them will win. But still, they are doing meaningful actions. They are not trying to play violin during the match, right? They perform shots, tricks. They run. They move. They try to save some efforts when they see that there's no point in like trying to push extra hard. So they know what to do, and those actions are meaningful in that respect, that they move the needle in the right direction. But it doesn't guarantee the result. But at least there is a hope. So if you compare that to the idea that intelligence is based on forecasting predictions,
Hmm.
then the same example will immediately show that something is wrong about that approach, because if Roger Federer predicts that he will miss, probably it is strange for him to perform the shot that way, right? No reasonable person will deliberately miss a shot based on the accurate prediction. So we cannot predict the future. We only can perform some meaningful action. And then there is a very nice Italian phrase, che sarà sarà, which roughly translates, be it what it will be.
You
So
know,
be
More
this
like
what it
quote
what will
may.
is
be will be. What will
this
be will
quote
be.
is
Yeah.
yeah, what will be. This quote is very famous in India. Do you know why? There is a book, and also a movie upon that book, The Accidental Prime Minister. And in that
Mhm.
Hmm.
movie, they used this K Sara Sara, and then they explained what it is, and it became famous after that here.
Yeah, so basically it's you see, it's not my claim is that intelligence uh, leaves traces. It leaves manifestations of its core components, of its core mechanisms, of its core algorithm all around. We have the game 20 questions. It is directly based on the mechanism of intelligence. We just the scientific community doesn't consider that game in that light, but I hope that at some point they will start to see it that way.
Hmm.
I really do. So, and now let me switch to another quote from Einstein. It's his famous definition of insanity, like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You already see the contradiction, right? So, and please pay attention to two important words in that definition: the same and different. They both refer to comparisons. And now, if we return to the game 20 questions, and we will consider, for instance, uh, any action. For instance, let's consider the action uh, making a tea, a cup of tea. So uh, it depends first on the part of the tree uh, from where you take the leaf. So is it mature leaf or is it young leaf or is it just a bud? Is it a flower or is it just tiny branches of the tree that you use to make tea? Next, which water do you use? Is it spring water or is it water from some strange source? So, what temperature of water you use for brewing tea? And many, many other options. So, and when you consider all those stages, Different options at each stage lead
Mhm.
to difference in result. But
Mhm.
if you consider some results as the same, then
Mhm.
probably input to that action you will have to consider also the same. So
Mhm.
if, for instance, you take slightly different leaves from the tree, but you get the same taste,
Mhm.
then you will probably consider those leaves as in the same range.
Mhm.
But if you notice the difference, then input was also different. And
Mhm.
that's how you introduce those boundaries between relevantly meaningful ranges. So,
Mhm.
because the input range affects some action
Mhm.
results in,
Mhm.
and again it leads to meaningful differences which
Mhm.
are meaningful to you.
Mhm.
So, and when you encounter those differences, you you introduce rules.
Mhm.
So for instance, if I take this, I will get that result. But if I take some different range as input, I will get a different result, and you will know how different.
Mhm.
And now, if you remember the core scientific principle on how to run experiments, you will probably remember that you have to change only one parameter and keep all the others the same. Again, pay attention, the same, so that you can figure out the effect of that single parameter that you change on
Mhm.
the result.
Yeah.
Do you see how it all works and ties together?
Mhm.
So, and again, scientists knew that, but they have problems with understanding intelligence. Perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Mhm.
So now I am ready to discuss with you the core algorithm of intelligence and
Mhm.
really of all cognition.
Mhm.
Any cognitive science function works according to that algorithm. Well, in my opinion, the,
Mhm.
the future will show who is right. So
Mhm.
before I discuss it, I want to introduce you to another insight about language that I had at the beginning, and that
Mhm.
insight was that language is formulaic, so
Mhm.
it follows some formulas,
Mhm.
and by formulas I mean that we have a certain structure, and
Mhm.
we have uh, just to substitute a different object for subject, a
Mhm.
different action for verb part,
Mhm.
different object for the object part, and you will have some different sentence altogether.
Mhm.
But if we now start to ask
Mhm.
questions about that fact,
Mhm.
then uh, how do we get the result?
Mhm.
How do we answer questions in natural languages? Do
Mhm.
we compute the answer? For instance, if I enter a shop and I see some choice of chocolates,
Mhm.
and the seller asks me, which chocolate do you want?
Mhm.
So do I compute the answer or do I select it from available options? This is very important consideration for real world, real time scenarios, situations. Because when lion attacks you and you have only a stick and a stone near you, you will not compute that it is most efficient to use a machine gun against lion. And then what? Unavailable options are of no use to you in the real time and real world scenario and situations. Uh, the calculated machine gun will not help you. You can use only either a stick or a stone. That's it. And you have to make that selection fast. So you evaluate your, again, you have, for instance, if that stone is too big, or if that stick is like it's too high on the tree, then probably you will go
Or
with the
too
other
long or too
option,
short.
or too short or too small. So you take into account all the available constraints
Yeah.
and you make your choice, and you do it fast if you want to survive. And in real time situations, you want to maximize your chances to survive. You speed up your decision making process. You take into account only relevant factors. Do you see? So now I am ready to give you the algorithm. So you start with a set of available options,
Hmm.
and then you apply relevant constraints to that set, and those constraints filter that set and leave you with the best fitting option. And that's your algorithm. Selection of the most fitting option from the available ones given the relevant constraints. That's the, well, my best definition so far of the. And now if you consider how does that apply to, for instance, object recognition. Which options do you have in the object recognition task? So your options are categories, possible categories. And which constraints do you have? Those are properties of the objects which you recognize. For instance, is it tangible object? Yes.
Mm.
Is it animate? Yes. Does it have feathers? Yes. Okay, it's a bird. Perfect. Tree comparison, and you are good to go. Very simple. So you filter the set pretty fast, and you are done. Now consider a totally different scenario. For instance, a detective story. There were 10 people in the house, and one of them was killed. So you are left with 9 suspects, and you have some clues. Who was where, what they wanted, and what they did, and what they know, and what they saw, and so. Now
Mm.
you apply those clues, and you filter the set of suspects, and you finally decide who the killer was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's Abhinav say something. He's quiet for whole the live stream. Okay, everyone has their couple of words, but Abhinav is like really zipped. So over to you, Abhinav. Have to say
Okay.
something.
Yeah. You
Abhinav,
are
we
muted.
cannot hear you.
You are
Is
muted.
Sorry.
yeah.
My mic was muted. So I didn't hear about that deep in intelligence. Like he told us about a basic block of intelligence, like how our intelligence works. And I never thought about it. Like from starting, he told us that there is no noun, only their properties define what it
Hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And then that system of finding things, I
Mm-hmm.
never thought about it really. I
Mm-hmm.
Look,
never looked at that things in is from this perspective.
Mm-hmm. No, but
yeah. Let Sanjay say something.
Yeah, so like I got the same feeling actually after listening to your like the thought of how you are selecting the like stone and stick, that example when the lion came in front of you, that part. It was like really fascinating for me because look, like we always find many things in our real life, but like I never thought in that way that you just explained,
you know,
that how the brain works, how it select the things, how fast it like make the
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
decision for you to
and
escape.
please pay attention to the fact that objects are really multidimensional in terms of properties. If
Mhm.
Hmm.
you take an apple, right? So
Mhm.
apple has color, size, weight, mm, taste,
Mhm.
and many other properties as well. And again, if you encounter a lion and
Mhm.
you have apple, you may use it not as food
But
but as a projectile weapon.
A
So
weapon, yeah.
that
But
the
that
that's
projectile
the
weapon is not
essence
easy to do
of
something.
Oh,
intelligence.
Mhm.
Yeah, my
You
question is
sometimes
like,
it may not be
is the
useful
lion
actually.
going to
So,
eat the apple or myself at that time?
that time you just need to sit in front of the lion and start eating that. Have your last meal and
Because it will
give
be
a
the
smile
last
to
apple of the life. It will be the
Yeah,
last apple
and
of the
here we come with the thing that we obviously when we are born also with the want of living.
life.
We have needs. We have food. We need our body needs energy. That is
Yeah.
why we need food. And so, what do you think? What is the role of our biology, especially evolutionary biology? Like earlier before this stream, we were talking about Turing test. Alan Turing spoke one statement that a machine cannot think like a human. Even a human doesn't think like a human. And if we compare other life forms like dogs, they doesn't think like us. Okay, so a machine will have like different requirements than us.
So like who
Yes,
think
I
like who
I agree
thinks like
with
human
that.
then?
Yeah.
The question that Alan Turing asked was, "Can machine think?"
Mhm.
And he decided not to answer that particular question.
Mhm.
So he just mentioned that he doesn't know what thinking is, how to define it in like computer terms, and
Hmm.
because of that, he proposed his test,
Mhm.
which was easier for him to formulate in like precise terms. I, in my turn, I really refuse from using precise terms, and we will talk about that later when we mention language. By the way, we are ready to start considering what language is, how it works, and so on. So, uh, I and by the way, we will probably then it will be better to mention the role of logic and precision,
Mm-hmm.
because
Hmm.
from the above you should now understand that intelligence is based on ranges and not precise measurements.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for me if some color is red and it's not really crimson or salmon shade of red. I am fine with going with just red. I
Mm-hmm.
am a man. I am a simple man. So I go with just red and that's it.
I'm even
But
simpler
if
one, just black and
but
white.
but some designer
I prefer bright
some
colors like
designer may
green
disrespect me
and shiny.
for ignoring specific shades. I understand that situation as well, because
Yeah.
from the point of view of this theory of intelligence, we need to respect differences.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of
And
colors,
yeah,
McGill Ammo turned yellow right now. Look at him. He's complete yellow.
Okay.
Killing
yeah,
brother,
He
killing.
is,
I mean,
he is having the best view right now. He's out in the park.
and, and
yeah.
so uh, uh, we have only one but interesting topic to mention under the umbrella of intelligence
Hmm.
is so returning back to the core algorithm of intelligence, which is selection from the available options.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Let that sink in. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what does it teach us about creativity?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And my claim is that if intelligence selects from available options,
Mm-hmm.
then intelligence is not really creative.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I use an apple as a projectile weapon,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that I am very creative. I know that I can throw an apple as a stone, and
Yeah,
it,
and it
it is
will
not it is
go
not
straight into his
creative.
mouth. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I can use leaves or grains or sand as a mean to create a painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But does it really make me creative?
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 points to creativity, really. The
Mm-hmm.
first one, I take a look at how
Mm.
to do something. And then
Mm.
when I know one recipe, or
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
maybe dozens of recipes,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
then when time comes and I need to make a choice of what to do,
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
am selecting from available options. If
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of recipes, I
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
will look like a creative person to the person who knows only one recipe.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So training, which is looking up and
Mm-hmm.
like absorbing new recipes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you will be creative. So you
Mm-hmm.
will have a lot of options to select from.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't know how to dance, I
Mm-hmm.
will probably consider professional dancers who know dozens of dances as
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
creative people, but
Mm-hmm.
they just trained a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They acquired a lot of recipes. And
Mm-hmm.
so, uh, reiterating again, intelligence is not creative. It requires training, it requires observing and absorbing options. The
Mm-hmm.
more the more algorithm you know, the more creative you will look like.
Mhm.
And now, if you have no questions about that, we will switch to language, but I will give you a few seconds to think about creativity, because from my experience, I know that this topic raises a lot of questions.
Mhm. No, I was like, no, I was about to ask in between that if intelligence, if it is not creativity, then what is creativity? But I would say that if we actually want to represent creativity, we should also include actions on that, because you know when we take a decision, it's not just our thoughts or what we learn, but sometimes what we do, because you know we learn also from our mistakes. Okay, and obviously we call it classification in machine learning, but even with time our classification is trained. We learn to classify better and better.
Yes, but again, for instance, I may tell you a great example of uh, when uh, when we lived in a village, and we only knew how pigs look like.
Mhm.
So, and when my brother first saw a cow,
Uh-huh.
he exclaimed, "A pig with horns."
That's ridiculous.
It was his attempt at classifying a new object, a new animal. He
Uh-huh.
took just a nearest known animal of at least nearest possible size
Uh-huh.
known to him. So it wasn't a cat, definitely. It
Yeah,
wasn't a dog, so it was a pig.
it cannot be cat.
we can we can ask
Uh,
we can ask 20 yes or no questions
So,
to classify.
but later, of course, he knew what cows were, what giraffes were, what elephants were, and so on. So it really takes experience and like introduction from people
But
who
if
knew
he
better.
saw an elephant instead of the cow, what would he say?
I
If he
don't
saw.
know. So well,
So
you
that
know how children learn about animals. We present them pictures and names, so they
yeah,
they like get immediately
match
to
them
both the picture and the name. So,
and the name.
but that
yeah,
that case was slightly different. So
yeah, and if I'm not wrong, you also
Also,
mentioned this example in your blog.
also classification changes according to
It is
situation.
there, I saw.
Like
yeah. So
I would like to give two short examples. Like
okay.
there is this little girl living on another flat in my building, and she was like, whenever she sees a dog, she's like baba, and whenever she sees a cat, so she again baba. And we used to tell her that it's not baba, it's meow meow. Okay,
Yes.
and that's first example. Okay, another thing is there was an ad in Indian TV history, and I believe every Indian here, like Abhinav, Sanjay, Yash, and
Mm,
we remember that ad. It was an ad where a person went to China, and it was a travel agency ad. Okay,
mm,
and he ordered to something to eat. So he got some square things which he was eating, and
mm.
suddenly he was like, "Where is Pak Pak?" So he was like, "It's not." He brought something, and he ate that, and he was like, "The Pak Pak was good." He was like, "It was not Pak Pak, it's my Bong Bong." It was
I I, I see. Yeah.
so,
Okay,
And
so
you know, like even when we grow up, right? As we grow up, when we meet animals that we have not been taught about, like, that matching picture and name, right? When we meet animals that we, even though we can see them, we don't have their names. We tend to like ask. So I think that also puts the line of difference between intelligence and creativity, because we do all of the options we have, or all of the data we have, if I would put it that way, do not suffice us to put a name to what we are seeing. Or if we
yes,
were creative, we could have easily just maybe cooked up a name for that particular animal that we can now see. But because we are basically working on intelligence, we don't have any available data or information that informs us on a name or what that particular animal we can see is called.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for that important reminder. It was today that I communicated with, I believe, with Chomba on Twitter about the ability of LLMs to say, to answer, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, uh, again, my explanation for when we don't know is very simple. So we start with the available options.
Mm-hmm.
We apply constraints, relevant constraints to that set, and then if the resulting set is empty,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm.
we don't know. We don't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
As simple as that. So, and only when we are asked, so try to come up with something as near as possible. Then we may come back and relax, like widen those constraints that we applied.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably
Exactly.
some constraint will leave us one option, which is like
A.
nearest one, and then we will have like not a good answer, but the best of what we got at that
A
moment.
like a pig with a horn.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, probably he knew perfectly well that it wasn't a pig, but he needed some term for that, because it was emotional moment for him. And
Mm-hmm.
by the
Mm.
way, uh, it is it is an important aspect of intelligence
Mm-hmm.
that if we don't know something, we feel that we have a gap in our knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We get emotional about it because
Mm-hmm.
it may be dangerous for us to have that gap,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
And because of that, we consider that it is crucial for us to fill that gap in our knowledge. And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, if we mention the reinforcement learning,
Mm-hmm.
which which is claimed to be one of the important approaches to artificial intelligence, I
Mm-hmm.
claim that it is not so important.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to proceed with that approach, consider filling the gaps in knowledge as an option for a reward,
Mm-hmm.
because reward is an important concept in reinforcement learning
Mm-hmm.
paradigm.
What do
So,
you think? Like, there was a time when I tried, like, I picked an open source project from internet, which was a facial recognition algorithm, which used to detect um, emotions on face, like happy, sad, okay.
mhm,
And then what I did, I was doing experiment where I was like, whenever these emotions are associated on the camera, then the person is happy, you get 1 point. And when
Mm.
the negative emotions like sadness or the person is crying, those things comes, up, give it a minus point. And that is how I was classifying a project 2 years ago.
Well, you see, current machine learning algorithm, they use deep neural networks, and those DNNs, they have a problem, I would say. So the problem is that they do not care about the semantics of properties.
Mm.
And one clear example of their lack of respect for the semantics of properties was in the cancer research, when some algorithm showed very good score on recognizing patients with like critical stages of cancer. And when researchers analyzed deeply what parameters were used to recognize those critical stages, they were like startled, surprised, utterly surprised, because the machine only recognized special marks which were present on those photos that was taken only for critical stage cancer patients. So it was like just a specific procedure for those types of patients. And it was the only parameter taken into account by the network because it was sufficient. But that particular parameter had nothing to do with cancer and with photo of patient, etc. So it supports my idea that we need meaningful AI, which pays attention to relevant constraints, to defining features, and not to just anything. Again, today I had a discussion with a guy on Twitter that not every correlation is important for us, and it should be clear. But that guy decided that we need to pay attention to everything. I don't know. I just don't know how a serious scientist can think that way. So I propose to switch to language before I got emotional. Okay, so uh, uh, now we we can talk about. We will start with words, just for you to understand that how what words really are, because there is a confusion that words are concepts. They are not, really not, because so we have in our mind lots of properties. We know about them,
Yeah.
and uh, we need to somehow address those ranges on those properties. And we have words for addressing them, but we have a limited supply of words because our memory is limited and we need to use it efficiently. So uh, word, the same word, can refer to different ranges of properties, but consider uh, one important aspect of that process. So for any given property, like height, we can use the same word only once. So we cannot name all the ranges of the height property with the same word high,
Mm-hmm.
because it will make no sense. It
Mm-hmm.
will not help us to differentiate those different ranges.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But if we are talking about different properties,
Mm-hmm.
like in one case, high is like a high tree, and
Mm-hmm.
in different case, high level of blood sugar,
Mm-hmm.
then it's perfectly fine to use high in different aspects for
Mm-hmm.
different properties. So
Mm-hmm.
one range per property, but possibly many different properties. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes words polysemous.
Mm-hmm.
Polysemy is like when words are ambiguous, so they have multiple meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in fact, I have a slightly different view on that, but for now, let's go with that. So words are words may have multiple meanings. They may
Mm-hmm.
refer to different concepts, and by concepts I mean range of a property. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but how can we like differentiate between high as in high blood sugar level
Mm-hmm.
and high as in high tree?
Mm-hmm.
There is an option, and there is an algorithm, and you may guess that it uses the core algorithm of intelligence, and it makes natural languages probably the only intelligent tool that we have so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the other tools, I claim, are simply dumb. They are
Mm-hmm.
they are not intelligent
Mm-hmm.
in my understanding of intelligence, which
Mm-hmm.
is proper relevant use of comparable properties, of comparison, of selection based on comparison, and on using those ranges and the connections between inputs and outputs via actions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so uh, now we can discuss the role of language, because you know that uh, there is a discussion whether language serves the needs for supporting thinking,
Mm-hmm.
or that language is used and designed primarily for communication.
Before we move forward, Alpha Buddha, I have a question for us.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is a question I have. He is like, at what point would we able to determine whether or not artificial intelligence is sentient, and how would we measure that?
Oh, my problem with that question is that I don't know the answer. In particular, I don't know how to measure it.
Uh-huh.
So probably I would say that the ARC AGI challenge
Mhm.
is uh, is probably a very good option for like testing the AGI potential,
Mhm.
Yeah.
By the
because
way,
it also relies on the use of of those properties and the sets of available options and filtering them, so we can apply this core algorithm to that challenge. But again, that challenge is not sufficient, so it doesn't explain what
mhm.
intelligence is. And
Uh-huh.
probably if scientists uh, embark on this approach to intelligence that I propose, maybe it will be easier for them to come up with a metric for proper intelligence.
Mhm. By the way, guys, I'm quickly sharing my screen for just to like show it where it is. Okay, yeah. So this is what Alexander is talking about. This is our price, and basically, OpenAI O3 systems had scored around 75.7%. And if I just give a general overview, so these guys have a set of puzzles, different data sets, and questions. And also there is something to practice here. And these guys are like in on their website they have mentioned that with LLMs we are hitting a limit. Okay, and the price is very simple. Like for 2024, it was like if we score 85% accuracy on these tasks, and the to overall compute cost is less than $10,000. Okay, so OpenAI have, I believe, went around $2,200 per hour, $2,200 per hour, and now they are going to open up for 2025, and we are waiting for that. But just for an update, soon we are going to have a special stream on arc price, which will be specific to this one, and it will not be just one stream but a series of streams where we are
Mhm.
going to attempt all those practice sets.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y- Yes, and
Okay. So
if I may,
sorry, Alex.
yeah,
Okay, so I just wanted to like add something on the on Sonny's question on measuring intelligence. So this is my thoughts, though I could be wrong, but I don't really think intelligence, especially when you look at it from a multidimensional view, can or should be measured. I mean, for certain maybe computers, for example, okay, there are algorithms, and these algorithms sort of follow some linear processes, right? Linear process of thinking or thinking process or patterns, right? And then when you look at like animals, they have more complex behaviors that are not linear. So, and let me use this word example. For example, a bear. A bear wants to pick a female bear, whatever it's called, wants to pick a mate, and she has to watch two male bears fight, and whoever wins the other wins the fight. She chooses that person as her mate. Now, that is not a linear decision in quote, and at the same time, for us humans, that would be a very mundane way to choose our spouses. So if a lady wanted to choose a spouse, she has two men fight, right? So for us, it's more complex
some men do.
because now we have to, you have to, we have more factors to consider, and not just more factors to consider. We have a more complex way we interact with these factors, more like independent and dependent variables. So I have to think about the person's upbringing, their values, their beliefs, and all these things put together. And that is just for the decision of okay, a spouse. There are many more decisions that we make, and the processes to which we arrive at whatever decision is so complex and ranging, not linear. So there is mathematics, there is the survival instinct, there is emotions. Like we put a lot of emotional consideration into the decisions we make, and that alone makes the process of our decision making quite complex. That if you wanted to put that into a measurement or a metrics, you would have a lot of dependent variables, if I'll put it that way. I don't know, I think dependent variables, you would have a lot of dependent variables to consider, right? or and maybe more than just one independent variables, because I at least I think I know if you want to put something into some form of measurement, you have to, just like you said, you have to have all other factors constant and one varying, like boys, Charles, and the rest of them. And now you have to deal with metrics that maybe more than one uh, independent variable can contribute to that decision.
I think we
I'm
lost.
afraid we lost you.
Yeah.
But let me comment briefly on that. Uh, Excellent point. Really complicated process for selecting a potential partner. But again, I want to mention, well, probably it's a theory because I am not sure that it was like confirmed scientifically or what, but there is a theory that it on average takes about 3 seconds for a woman to decide whether a man is worthy of her attention. So 3 seconds, and every complicated procedure is done. So probably it takes only a few comparisons for a
Yeah.
woman to make the decision.
Or
Well, I won't agree to that
or it
completely,
could
because
be.
I have seen, a lot of cases when a woman don't fall at at the first 3 seconds, or even first 3 days, but
Uh,
in the end we
probably
know it all.
probably that
I could say
there is
that
a
I would not
Okay,
even say that
element
it
of
I
will
Alex.
take
think
3 days.
I think it's not about falling.
Okay,
It's
what
about
by
knowing that in first 3 seconds the woman get to know like what they are going to do with you.
But
yes, but
I
like,
can agree to that.
okay,
The reason
th-
is
Uh,
that if like we are getting a little bit off topic, but in my experience, if a girl wants to talk to you, she will talk to you, and if she doesn't, her mind is already made.
yes, and
okay,
don't
so right.
forget about additional scenarios, options, and algorithms to choose from. If
Yeah.
uh, if a girl
Okay,
was taught by her parents that you need to consider many more options, she may know that
Mhm.
she made her mind, but she will demonstrate that she is still in the process. But
Mhm.
sometimes you just uh, catch how she looks at you, and you know her decision. But
yeah. Okay,
there may be hesitations, but it may be a play.
Mhm.
okay. So, Alex, let's take this scenario now. Okay, you said a lady could use in 3 seconds could decide what she wants to do, or whether you what talking to something like that, right? So, what if now your conclusion, if I would say, or what you suppose, is that she is considering very few options. That's why she can make that decision so fast or within that very small time. What if it's not really that she's considering few options, but she is she operates on a very high level of super intelligence that she can consider too many options in lesser time? What if that's the case?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Probably, well, I don't know the exact process in their heads. That's for sure. But
Okay,
I will probably stick to my like my idea of that.
okay.
So
But then
so
the question wasn't like just basically about women, but what if decision making, or what if the speed at which humans can make seemingly consequential decisions within short period of time is not necessarily dependent on the number of factors they they consider, how little, or that's basically the general idea behind the
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I can answer it. And the answer is very easy. We are real-time animals.
Mhm.
We have everything it takes to make decisions instantly.
Mhm.
But please do not think that those decisions must be perfect
Mhm.
or
Sure.
correct
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
optimal or whatever.
Yeah, it's
We
True.
basically a
often make wrong decisions based on that fact that we may have wrong options to start with. That's
like
it.
every living being, every animal have a response time. Like for us, it is 200 milliseconds. If anything happening more than that, we
We
notice the
Yeah,
difference.
exactly. We just don't have time
Yeah,
for complex procedures.
yeah.
That's it.
Mm.
Real
But
time constraints uh, are of paramount importance to us,
Amor,
and
here
it
is a
will not
thing.
change quickly. Believe me.
And here's the thing, like like we mentioned that if those decisions are, it doesn't matter. But we are talking about the response time here. Cats even have faster response time than us, which is 80 milliseconds. And so anything which is happening more than more than 80 milliseconds, cats are noticing that difference instantly. And sometimes,
Exactly. Yes.
yeah, people also say that if
Real
you,
time.
yeah,
We wouldn't survive if we were unable to make decisions fast.
yeah.
That's very simple answer, and I will not change that. Uh, Please make sure that you understand me correctly. We have immediate answer at any point for any complexity of the situation, but we also have one important option in in our set initially. It is to take our time, think more.
Mm.
If it is not a critical situation, you may take your time and think additionally. Take
Mhm,
into account more options, more constraints, uh, think ahead,
mhm,
take more steps, and so on.
mhm,
But again, immediate answer is available.
mhm,
It's what intuition is all about. But really, we also may like engage this system to thinking, but
mhm,
it's a different different beast altogether.
mhm,
And I wouldn't say that it is so much more reliable than what we have in our when uh, you see, if you are well trained in some domain, your intuition will be good enough
mhm,
to win most of your competitors.
mhm.
So that's my point.
Okay, I have a question. What do you think about dreaming?
Dreaming is tightly related to memory,
Mhm,
and again, uh, it's about the same as uh, well, when we mentioned what nouns are, right?
mhm,
So we remember only
mhm,
relevant
mhm,
those uh, defining features, defining
mhm,
properties. So
mhm,
we may remember that we saw a church,
mhm,
Mm.
but we may, if we are asked in 1 hour later, what
mhm,
color was it? We may
mhm,
be surprised that we didn't. remember the color,
Mhm.
or the shape of windows,
Mhm.
or some pictures on the door,
Uh-huh.
or some other details.
Uh-huh.
And but if we take a look at that church again, we will
Uh-huh.
immediately spot those details.
Uh-huh.
It's the problem is that we take into account very small number of features just to make a general classification decision. Oh,
Mhm.
it's a church, good enough for us to go. And
Mhm.
then later, when we are asked to provide those details that we missed, we may
Mhm.
confabulate, hallucinate those additional details. We
Mhm.
may go with such details that we consider most probable. Like, okay, it should be like white church. Why not? When it was really light pink or whatever, light green.
Mhm.
So uh, those cognitive scientists ran lots of experiments to confirm that. And
Mhm.
memory is really unreliable. And
Mhm.
when we remember facts from our past, we
Mhm.
often reconstruct those events, and we add a lot of details that were not in the original experience. So
Mhm.
we add something like non existent.
Mhm.
And the problem is that we really try to extract only relevant connections between events. So, like
Mhm.
when we consider some event, we notice a lot of objects participating in that event. And
Mhm.
we may think like with amulets, right? So
Mhm.
I used that amulet and it helped me to get a job.
Mhm.
But it later it may turn out that that amulet is worthless,
Mhm.
useless,
Mhm.
and we make a decision that, so we need to cut off that connection. So
Mhm.
if that amulet is present in the scene, it doesn't perform as well as we think. So,
Mhm.
and what dreams do, they try to like check uh, the events of the past day with our previous experience, and they
Mhm.
like cut those connections that are irrelevant.
Mhm.
So like we notice that some person was present and the result was such and such. Maybe
Mhm.
that person was relevant to that result, but
Uh,
uh, we may, in our dreams, we may recall that that person was present when result was different. Therefore, now we see that that person is irrelevant for that experience, and we engage the forgetting mechanism. We have two mechanisms in our mind, one for remembering and
mhm.
one for forgetting. So we establish connections between phenomena, or
Mhm.
we erase those connections. And
Mhm.
my idea of dreams is that it's when we like when we collect experiences during the day, we
Mhm.
like put a lot of garbage inside, and
Mhm.
in our dreams we like or make order there.
Mhm.
So we take facts one by one, and we like place them on proper shelves
Uh-huh.
to 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 introduce order in that chaos. Does it make
Uh-huh.
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, but this comment doesn't make sense. So,
I
guys,
think
we
I think
Yeah,
that's an emoji. I think that's
that
an
comment
emoji.
is irrelevant to our discussion immediately. That's why we forget about it immediately.
by the way, guys, meet Nehal. So, today we had the Alpha Buddha Sony Savage on our stream, and now we have Nehal. So, hearts for both of you, and basically, and any comments you guys are putting for us, we happily accept it, even if it doesn't make any sense to us. Maybe.
It's an emoji of a
Yeah,
tongue
it's
So
an
we
out.
were
emoji.
talking about
Yeah.
we were talking about maybe girls have super intelligence. That is why, like, so this is the result of super intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So,
breakdown algorithm.
what do you think about moving next to language? So, we stopped at the communication function, and here is where things get interesting.
Mhm.
Get ready to be somewhat surprised, even though you will not be surprised. So, what I mean is that language doesn't communicate information.
Mhm.
Is that a surprising fact for you?
Well, I don't think it is surprising for me because
No,
we
it's not
can
for me.
communicate. Yeah.
So, my idea about this is that we need to consider communication as a two-stage process. And
Mhm.
during the first stage,
Mhm.
language is involved and its role is really limited.
Uh-huh.
Its
Hmm.
role is guiding our attention as listeners.
Mhm.
For instance, take a look at that dog.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And when we take a look at that dog,
Mhm.
then our perception,
Mhm.
our vision collects all the necessary details and make sure that's a much more powerful information collection
Okay.
mechanism that we have
Mhm.
compared to language. We
Hmm.
cannot possibly provide enough information using language
Mhm.
compared to vision.
I
Mhm.
think
That's
Harsh has to say something.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, guys, in like 1 hour, I have a meeting. So I'm
I think we
yeah
will make stop before that. So you see what I mean. So
yeah.
the role of language is just a pointing finger. That's it. And then your perception kicks in to collect information about the
Hmm. Good
pointed
point.
phenomenon.
Mhm.
Okay, so
But the, the, there are there are details to that. So
Uh-huh.
when we are talking about events from our past,
Mhm.
we cannot point to those events with a finger, but
Uh-huh.
we can with language.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we use our memory
Mhm.
to make this pointing,
Mhm.
and the listeners will engage their memory to extract information.
Mhm.
And there is a third possibility. For instance, when I talk to you and mention, imagine zombie attacking a Superman,
Mhm.
do I refer to past events or to current events? Definitely not. So
Mhm.
you will have to imagine those two entities and their interaction. And
Mhm.
maybe you will have a different vision of that process.
Mhm.
But again, it is not language that provides you all the details. It is your memory, it is your imagination that you use in order to reconstruct that scene, that event, that whole situation. So it's language is not the primary connector, not the primary deliverer of information.
Mhm.
Your cognitive abilities like perception, memory, imagination, those are modules that perform
Mhm.
the cognitive heavy lifting.
Mhm.
That's very important to remember. Okay,
Sure.
and now we may talk how some language mechanisms work. For
Mhm.
instance, how references work.
Mhm.
So we start with
Mhm.
some context. So
Mhm.
we are in a limited scene.
Mhm.
We are not talking about all the human history and all the possible future of humans and all the imaginary worlds. We are
Mhm.
talking about that scene where we are located at that
Uh-huh.
moment, or where we look at.
Mhm.
And then we provide words that differentiate the
Mhm.
required, those relevant objects that we want to discuss from
Mhm.
that particular context.
Mhm.
And in my book that I mentioned before, uh, I provide a picture drawn by my daughter that we may have, for instance, a snooker table.
Mhm.
And if we want to pay attention to a red ball,
Mhm.
then the word ball will filter all the objects out because only balls will remain under consideration. Then
Mhm.
adding color red will
Mhm.
filter all the colored balls and only red balls will remain. And
Mhm.
then if there are many red balls remaining, then we will probably add another, we will stack those properties until our set of available objects, which is our initial context,
Uh-huh.
will contain only relevant objects, only
Mhm.
that red ball which we want to discuss, to
Mhm.
mention.
Mhm.
So basically, references are stacked filters. And what does it remind you? The core algorithm of intelligence. We start with available options, which are objects in the context, and we filter them, uh, taking into account relevant constraints.
Mhm.
But note that we need to provide differentiating properties of those relevant objects. And
Mhm.
there may be different sets of those differentiating objects,
Mhm.
properties.
Mhm.
So if I am used to mention color, I will say that it's a red ball. But if I am used to mentioning location, I will say that it's a red, it's a ball nearest to us, for
Mhm.
instance. And the result will be the same.
Mhm.
I just used different differentiating filtering options. That's
Mhm.
it. And notice one more important uh, issue with that. References are context dependent. If I say red ball in the context of snooker,
Mhm.
it will produce a different result compared to if I say the same phrase in a toy
Mhm.
store.
Mhm.
Red ball in the toy store will produce the result, but the result will be different.
Mhm.
And it makes uh, linguists angry that references are context dependent. But
Mhm.
I claim that it's not a bug, it's a feature, and
Mhm.
it's a intelligent feature of natural languages, and we
Mhm.
need to respect that. We need actually to admire that. And
Mhm.
there is even a hypothesis called the genius of language.
Mhm.
Languages are really genius, and
Mhm.
there should be no doubt about that. Now, let's mention another option. When we make references, we may
Mhm.
use negation.
Mhm.
Like, it's not, well, take a ball that is not red.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is easier to narrow down the set of objects using
Mhm.
negation. For
Mhm.
instance, in the case of snooker, uh, for instance, if we have one black ball on the table and lots of red balls, then
Mhm.
not red ball will make the case.
Mhm.
So negation is just uh, essentially the same, but we are using property that is not available for the relevant object.
Mhm.
Like that famous phrase in the dating apps, without bad
Mhm.
habits, right? So
Mhm.
negation is that simple. We
Mhm.
just need to respect the convention, and that's it. So we have in mathematics we had set operations like union, intersection, and negation. So uh, intersection is what references are, but when we use negation,
Mhm.
it's also one of the available set operations, and sometimes it may be even more useful than compared to ordinary set intersection. So
Mhm.
whatever works for narrowing down the set of available options, you are
Mhm.
free to go. Okay, and now we mentioned that language is a pointing finger. So what are the sentences? So we have references that reference to different objects in the scene, but sentences,
Mhm.
they connect those relevant objects. For instance, a player kicked the red ball. So
Mhm.
we filter out from the context two objects, red ball and player.
Mhm.
Everything else is irrelevant in this case.
Mhm.
And we mentioned that there was an action connecting those two.
Mhm.
So we are pointing to action connecting two objects in the context. So
Mhm.
that's the pointing power of language, because you will probably have hard time pointing at connections
Mhm.
with your finger.
Mhm.
That's why language is well, should be preferred to to pointing with with your finger. That's
Mhm.
why probably it is more polite to use language for pointing than finger, because it's just makes it difficult for your listener to figure out what you are pointing at. If you
Actually, I, s- meanwhile, when we were speaking, I searched for this face push your tongue out, and it turns out to be it is an emoji,
Mhm.
Yes,
and
that's
we cannot see that emoji here, but
mm,
I don't know if you guys can see this. It's this
mm.
emoji.
Mhm.
Yes, I can see now.
Okay. So, and finally, the question of what is meaning. Now
What is
it will
meaning?
be easy for you to answer that question, because it's it's a pointed object, or
Yeah,
it's a pointed fact connection.
yeah. You have given a lot of explanation on it, so now I can think like it's easy to answer it. It's a pointed
Yeah,
object.
It's
Yeah.
it's very easy.
I'm going to watch this stream and increase my own views on YouTube, because there is so much information. Like even our viewers have to like process it.
Like
Yeah, so
it's
I'm really sorry for
No, no,
probably
no, 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 no.
information overload at this stage. That's why I'm trying to be to add some emotions, some humor, because you see, the role of emotions in remembering is huge. It's very important. It makes it stick in your memory, and
mm.
probably I am doing you some
You
service.
know, storytelling, you do it like amazingly. You know, Apple and Lion,
Thank
the
you for that.
projectile function, like it's wild. I love that one. You
Great,
know, if
thanks.
anything from this stream I will be taking is that Apple and Lion. Like it will be, I will remember that for years, man. For
Great.
years. Yeah.
So now, now you are ready to consider how the core algorithm is used for disambiguation.
Mhm,
So
Yeah.
remember
So Sanjay, are you ready?
that words may have different meanings.
mhm,
And how do we decide which meaning to go with?
Mm.
And so you need to remember uh, that objects are multidimensional,
mhm,
Mm.
but please remember also that they are not omnidimensional.
mhm,
Omni states for all.
mhm,
So any object you take, it doesn't have all the possible properties.
mhm,
Therefore, if I use some words as referring to the same object,
mhm,
then probably that object should be like such an object in a context
mhm,
which has all those properties.
mhm,
So, uh, just as an example, uh,
mhm,
let's take a phrase high key.
mhm,
So, uh, both words are polysemous. So,
mhm,
they have many different meanings. But only one
mhm,
object fits both
mhm,
words. And let's mention which meanings are possible for any of those words. So,
mhm,
high, it can be blood sugar level, right? It
mhm,
may be height. It may be, for instance, pitch, pitch
mhm,
of your voice, high, like feminine voice, right?
mhm,
We say that it's high. And key, it may refer to a tool for locking doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it may be used as a programming term when you use some key value storage,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it also may refer to the level of pitch of your voice. Now
Mm-hmm.
you are probably comfortable with the figuring out that high key is referring to some feminine pitch, like soprano, may be characterized with that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very simple, right? So again, but please note that in this case we used each word as a source of constraints for the other. So the word high
Mm-hmm.
constrained the word key, and the word key constrained the word high. So, uh, and there was a famous quote that you will know the word by the company it keeps.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mechanism on how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So you are using again here you can see that we are using the core algorithm of intelligence. We
Mm-hmm.
start with a set of available options, which
Mm-hmm.
are different possible meanings of each word,
Mm-hmm.
and we take into account these constraints from the neighbor words.
Mm-hmm.
And after taking into account those constraints, we come up with the interpretation that is intended in this case. But
Mm-hmm.
again, please do not forget that language is quite flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this possibility of having multiple meanings, depending on our purpose in communication, we may intentionally mislead our listeners into interpreting our words in certain way. For instance, interrogated suspects often use that to mislead interrogators, or storytellers use metaphors. That's a powerful technique, and it is based on the multiple meanings of words. And when we do this, when we apply this in our communication, we may make the uh, understanding of by listeners of our speech like either more interesting, involved, complicated, or as simple as possible. And it really depends on how cooperative we are and also they are. You may find in YouTube the exact instruction challenge where father tries to make like a sandwich following instructions by his children. It's hilarious. He's uh, he is so uncooperative, and he tries to understand their instructions in in utterly different way, so that to illustrate that it is hard to come up with the exact and precise instructions. So it's really worth to watch just what communication can do. So, and that's why we really need to like to respect that possibility as well. So, and finally, so let's let's have a pause for a second, and if you have any questions at this point.
Uh,
Yeah, let's ask our speakers. So
okay, so Sanjay doesn't get a chance for a long time.
yeah, yeah, man. Please have some words. Oh,
Well,
you
if you
you are
have
mute.
no
Wait,
questions,
wait. He have
Wait, I will
question.
unmute him. I will
Like
uh,
he
unmute
just
then
him.
mute.
we
Now
have
it's
one small piece, and we are done, because I know Harsh is limited on time, so
Yeah.
mm,
we need to
Actually,
respect that as well.
okay, okay. So in that case, I have three questions, like
yeah, go ahead.
related to like entire stream. So first one is that you talked about the observation, right? The place of observation is important. So that reminds me of a phenomenon that, like, it's a fact that whenever just imagine 10 people are standing and they are watching a rainbow. So it is a fact that no one is seeing the same rainbow. Everyone is perceiving it differently. That's physics, but yeah, that's also the fact you told that the place of observation matters.
Yes.
Huh.
But again, you see, when I mention rainbow, more or less, we are talking about the same experience, right? It may be different in some minor aspects, but more or less it is the same phenomenon in the sky. So, and it is not so important for me that you experienced exactly the same, because you for instance, some people are colorblind, but they also see rainbow in some way, but I
Yeah, like
shouldn't
black and white.
impose on them my vision and my version of a rainbow. But when I refer to the rainbow, I know that they like remember what rainbow is, or what where to find it in the sky, if it is present at the current moment. So it's, again, language is is working, and intelligence, they work with ranges which allow those differences in perception, and it makes it a powerful tool. So they accommodate those minor differences in our perception. So
Yeah.
Mm.
that's okay, not a
Yeah.
problem.
So with that, let's jump on that a small point. No,
Yeah.
no, actually, I don't just sound too. I don't want to sound rude, but actually, yeah, the time is
Okay,
limited.
so let's finalize our talk by talking about logic and truth. So
Mm.
uh, I already mentioned that we are pointing at connections between objects. So, for instance, I may say at this moment that I was talking about intelligence and language. And from your experience, you validate that statement as true. But if I say that I was talking about green elephants, then you will interpret it, and you will say that it's not exactly true. And please note that it doesn't make sense that my statement delivered information to you. What it did is suggested some information for you to take or to refuse. And that's where your reasoning abilities kick in. And not only your perception or memory, but also your reasoning. So you analyze my statement, and you uh, make your own decision whether that statement was valid or not, believable or not. So it's it's a two-party process. So two play two play can play that game, right? So I try to convince you about something, but it is your business whether to take it or not, whether you buy
Mm.
it or not. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and that's where multidimensionality of objects plays a huge role. So you all probably remember those scenes in movies where turn left, which left, my left or your left, right?
Yeah.
So it makes truth really relative, partial, and even vague. Because if I say that, well, that dog was red, but what about if that dog had white spots? Does it make my claim, my reference invalid? If that dog was mostly red, then probably you will be fine with that reference. If that reference does the job of differentiating that dog from the context, it's not a problem if if the dog was not completely red. So uh, please be careful about when you like try to be exact, precise, and so on. Eh, when we communicate, when we talk to each other, we really don't need to be precise or exact, just good enough. That's very important. And good enough is not what philosophers think about truth, because a tiny difference from the truth, and that's it. So my hair is black, right? To philosophers, it is not, because some of it is gray. So my hair is black is a false statement to philosophers.
But
But
to me,
I,
all
I, I
looks
really,
black.
I really don't care about that.
Hmm.
At this stage, at this age, I will refer to my hair as black, and I am good enough with that. Okay,
Hmm.
and now I want to explain to you the probably the last point. What
Hmm.
is a lie? So if I tell you that 2 plus 2 is 5, does it make this statement a lie? Because you see, you can validate this immediately, spot on. My statement will not lead you into some different behavior. Okay? And therefore, it will not generate any value for me. So I propose to consider additional context. So uh, let's consider an interrogator and the suspect. So only a suspect knows where he was. Okay,
Okay.
and only interrogator knows what clues are available to him, and both know some shared information. So when the suspect mentions some events from his private context, but he does that so that he misreports them
Okay.
to make him look innocent, then we may say that that was a lie.
Mhm.
because he will be able to extract some value for himself. But at the
Mhm.
same time, when the interrogator
Mhm.
knows some clues that will help him to like counteract those lies,
Mhm.
then he may guide with his questions the lies of the suspect in such a way that contradictions will arise and
Mhm.
the lie will become obvious.
Mhm.
So that's a game, really. But what I want you to like to take away with you from this talk is that it's not enough to misreport some events to to make them a lie. It is necessary for those events to be a part of your private context, so
Mhm.
that listeners do not have an easy time to validate your statements.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if that and also it should be believable,
Mhm.
because if you make it that you were uh, when the crime happened, I was at home with Cindy Crawford, no
Mhm.
one will believe you, right? So, and again, if the interrogator will ask Cindy Crawford for confirmation, probably your lie will be exposed quickly. So it doesn't make any sense as a lie. So
Mhm.
believable misreporting of your private context. That's what makes a lie.
Mhm.
And all those components are important. But again, we need to remember those other like pieces to it, like
Mhm.
the metaphorical usage of words and so
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
So there are really a lot that makes language amazing.
Mhm.
It's a truly intelligent tool, and
Mhm.
it really reflects how intelligence
Mhm.
internally models the world, and indeed even ourselves and
Mhm.
other people. So
Mhm.
knowing myself, I can talk about how my
Mhm.
mind works, and if I uh, s- spend some time thinking how to convey my ideas to other people,
Mhm.
I will probably become a better storyteller,
Mhm.
as was
Yeah, I
suggested
feel so.
previously in our talk.
Yeah.
So, and
You'll be
at this
amazing.
point, I want to stop.
Have you
And
tried stand-up comedy sometime? Anytime?
mm, no, but
Try that. Try
I,
once.
I, I love to tell jokes. But again, it's a story for a different time.
Yeah, yeah.
There is another podcaster. Yeah, and trust me, if I can put you any day, like I don't know him personally, but if any day I can put you in his show, I will put you in his show. His name is Ranveer Alhabadia.
Okay, that guy.
Yeah,
Okay, he will love the
yeah,
conversation.
I don't
I can
mind.
relate.
I will try
Yeah,
to do my best as a comedian.
yeah.
no,
We
no, no.
also do our
He
best to
doesn't do
try to.
comedy. Like he do serious podcast. And trust
Yeah.
me, your material is perfect for his podcast.
Mm.
Okay, good. It will be great. Now I hope you got some useful ideas, and now intelligence is not such a mystery for you. So I
Yeah,
hope if I succeeded in delivering that.
Mhm.
yeah. That was amazing. Let's listen the last thoughts from our speakers, and then we will wrap up. Okay, over to
Yeah.
you, Harsh.
So today I definitely have some good ideas. I am actually going to listen to the entire. I will not lie. I did not grab the entire subject. Trust me.
Uh,
But
Harsh, I may I ask you to add some links for instance, to my Substack, because
yeah, sure.
it may help clarifying those ideas as well.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I'm going to listen to this one more time, once, like maybe tomorrow or maybe after that. But I will definitely listen to this more. But in between, I had some good ideas. I have also ideas of my own. Maybe we can discuss those ideas later. On this, like today, it was about you, so I stayed silent because. But you trust me, like when I spoke about that Sanskrit thing, I can go very deep in it, more
Mm.
deeper than you
Yeah,
think.
it's okay if we have like a take two,
Yeah,
mostly dedicated to questions and answers.
yeah.
Thank you for your kind words.
All right. So over to you, Sanjay. Please share the
Yeah,
thoughts.
okay, I really enjoyed a lot. Actually, I went through the blogs that you provided us to go. So I figured out that most of the points you covered from that, but the symbolic part was like still a mystery for the stream.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you have specific questions, please send them my way, and I will make my best to answer.
Mm.
And
yeah,
also take a look at those links that I provide in my
Mhm.
Substack.
I do have some question related to the symbolic language perceptions, so that I will send it to you. But yeah, apart from that, the stream, like, I really enjoyed, and the
Mm.
points that I liked is that you told about the approach. The approach
Mm.
makes the difference.
Oh,
I
Mm.
okay.
really like that. I
Yeah,
really
Sanjay,
thank
like,
you.
and
Sanjay,
also
Sanjay,
the point that you
Sanjay,
said, like, huh?
Sanjay, I
What
didn't
happened?
want to interrupt you, but doesn't Amor look like he came out of golf club?
I wonder. I wonder what constraints made you believe that. What
Okay.
Abhinav
properties?
looks like completely different right now.
Uh, Abhinay,
Abhinav, are you all right?
Abhinay, is everything fine, brother? Or you
Actually,
are like
It's
surrounded
okay.
I
by so much constraints and different approaches? Or should I say constraints in your approaches?
Oh,
are still live.
And,
He's
uh,
saying something.
and
Stay quiet,
and
guys. He's saying
Harsh
something.
made that decision in 3 seconds, max.
No, like the fact that you told girls like take 3 seconds to fall in love or whatever. What my point is, a boy takes fraction of a second to decide that girl as his wife with 4 5 children.
yeah, that is true. And there is one more thing. If any girl is watching this stream, decide to fall in love with me in just 3 seconds.
Okay, don't forget about us too.
No, I will be glad to you forever, in for my entire life.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, and last but not the least, the point that you told, if you feel yourself good enough, that's enough. So yeah,
No, okay.
Yeah.
that's the
Amazing.
point I'm going to take.
Okay, well, so we had a lot of time today together. Okay, over to you, Harsh. You can wrap up this stream now, and
No, no,
let's go.
no. I have already said. So, Sanjay,
No,
you, Amar,
Amor,
would you like to say something?
Like
Amar?
these. I mean,
Maybe Amor lost his golf kit.
yeah.
No, no, no.
I'm seeing like they
You,
both
So
having
you
connection
know,
issues
okay,
for a while. I think.
so do everyone hear
Okay.
me?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
we
we
can
can
hear.
hear you, but your network is very lost today.
Amol, you can do
Go
one thing.
ahead.
You can turn off your camera and you can speak. That would be much, I
Can you hear
think.
me now?
Yeah, you are audible. You can speak.
Okay, okay. So
Okay.
this this would arguably be perhaps the second or most engaging topic that I've enjoyed, right? Because I know like stuff about intelligence, the kind of things I
Mm.
like to talk about. But for me, this particular broadcast, what stood out for me would be um, the how succinct you were in not misplacing terminologies, right? Especially in conversations like this, what could easily go wrong is that we're using a particular terminology that the two parties communicating have different definitions or perhaps understanding of, and you were very sure, you made sure you defined what you meant by each particular word, and you made sure that you tried your best to use the most appropriate word for a particular thing, topic, or concept or idea you wanted to explain, and that was certainly awesome for me. It kind of shows a good level of understanding of what you're saying, and also a high level of um, passing that information across. Yeah.
Absolutely. Vinod?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
Abhinav, you are on mute.
Abhinav, you on
Yeah.
mute.
Yeah.
Yes,
Do you have
bro.
any?
Please say some words. Last thoughts.
Oh, okay. Actually, so it was nice because I already told you that I never thought about that level of thinking that you are telling us. You know, that
Okay.
breakdown of these things at will at raw basic levels, like pure raw, where they are originated. So it was little hard to digest everything because we are not used to it. But yeah, that was really nice session.
It's recorded, so we can always take a look at it back.
Yes, and
Yeah.
also I provided some links so you have like additional information to take into account. So probably it will make it easier for you to understand in written form.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hundred
So
percent.
So so
with
you
that
you
thought,
have like an additional source of
Yeah.
information, and you always have me to answer your questions.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
It was pleasure
That's
to talk to
absolutely
you
correct.
guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Well,
was also
we
a pleasure.
we actually loved you coming. We actually appreciate you coming here,
Yeah.
Alexander.
Thank you
The
And
for
pleasure is
inviting.
thank you. And before we close the stream, I would like to say that we have another commenter. He just commented laugh, but maybe he was having fun. And
Yeah, we are
um,
we all are laughing since the beginning. You know,
yeah,
it should be fun. Everything should be fun here. The day we started the live stream, it's all fun.
Exactly.
That's completely
yeah.
fine.
So, before we close the stream, I would like to mention to all our viewers that tomorrow we are again going to have a stream with Justin. Just we are going to have mini MBA session on tomorrow, and the day after that we are going to talk about some corporate law.
Hmm.
And I believe we have another comment, but it's not. Yeah, it's popped up here. So the Alpha Buddha said, "Good job, guys. Highly." De-
DJ.
I highly detailed conversation. Okay, it's highly
Something is
detailed.
missing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's T and S is missing with his trophy, comma.
Yeah. Wondering, like,
So
he stick to the whole conversation. Amazing,
yeah,
Sony. Yeah.
trust
Yeah,
me,
he had
Sony.
to like make that decision
Oh,
in person.
this is for Sony.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the conversation with Sony was special in its own way.
Mhm.
So
So, uh, so with that, we are closing the stream for now. So we are closing the stream